Humanity has constructed the most sophisticated communications infrastructure in the history of the species, effectively collapsing geographic distance to zero. Yet, beneath this constant transmission of data, we are starving for emotional resonance. This crisis bypasses the elderly to find its most acute expression in digital natives. Data shows up to 40% of young adults between 16 and 24 live with persistent feelings of loneliness. Sociologist Sherry Turkle identifies this condition as being alone together, a state where physical proximity or digital links mask a profound emotional absence. This widespread isolation marks a systemic breakdown in our capacity to fulfill a vital human requirement. Epidemiological data establishes social connection as a primary driver of longevity. Lacking these bonds increases early mortality risk by up to 32%, exceeding the impact of obesity or air pollution. Chronic loneliness exacts a physiological toll comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes every day. Neurobiological research explains this mortality rate. Functional brain scans conducted at UCLA reveal how the human brain processes social rejection. These scans show that social exclusion activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula. These are the exact neural regions the brain uses to register acute physical pain. This hardware evolved because human survival once depended entirely on the tribe. To ensure we stayed connected, the brain treats social separation as an immediate threat to life. To the human nervous system, digital loneliness registers as literal, life-threatening trauma. While biology requires stability, we now live in what sociologist Zygmunt Bauman called liquid modernity. The enduring social structures and stable partnerships of the past have melted into transient, fluid arrangements. Digital platforms have commodified these bonds, training us to treat others as consumable experiences. Through dating apps and the culture of ghosting, we keep our emotional commitments infinitely adjustable. This ecosystem encourages continuous partial attention. We exist in a state of distributed presence, where our focus is fragmented across multiple digital silos, even during face-to-face encounters. This fragmentation forces the rise of the performative self. We curate idealized identities designed for algorithmic validation, prioritizing metrics over genuine truth. This creates a paradox of visibility. We display these curated lives to thousands of peripheral nodes while remaining unseen in our raw vulnerability. We have engineered a network that maximizes reach while systematically stripping away the depth and presence required for actual human bonding. This environment starves the body at a cellular level. Polyvagal theory explains the mechanics of this starvation through the way our autonomic nervous system organizes our physiological state. Our bodies utilize a subconscious process called neuroception. It is a constant internal radar scanning for signals of safety or threat in every person we meet. Biological safety is reached through co-regulation. This process requires two nervous systems to sync using subtle cues: eye contact, vocal prosody, and the softening of facial muscles. Digital communication often blocks these signals. Performative masks and the lack of physical proximity prevent the safety message from ever reaching the brain's threat radar. Without these cues, the body stays locked in a state of sympathetic activation. The isolated individual effectively feels biologically hunted. This physiological crisis points to a cognitive error, the belief that we are discrete, atomized units fighting for survival alone. Non-dual philosophies describe a different reality, called interbeing. In this view, nothing exists in isolation. Reality is a web of absolute interdependence, where the I cannot exist without the we. If we recognize this interdependence, relationships become more than social convenience. The philosophical framework of fractals suggests we live in a holographic reality, where every relationship functions as a sacred mirror, reflecting our inner world back to us for the purpose of integration. This recontextualizes the agony of loneliness. It is a powerful alarm bell, signaling that we are acting against the structural interconnected truth of our own nature. Resolving this crisis requires a practical framework, the belonging architecture. Healing comes from a deliberate shift in the quality of our connections. We must reclaim relational presence. This involves dismantling our fragmented attention through device-free rituals and the practice of sacred listening, witnessing another's unfolding without an agenda. Because the human nervous system heals in relationship, we must have the courage to shed our performative armor. Real connection requires the exposure of the raw, unedited self. Salvaging our biological health and internal stability requires stepping out of the digital labyrinth. We must dare to be truly seen by one another.